Keeping on what we did last time, we've got this data structure that represents a project after it's been parsed, but I want to switch it to using variable with strings if I can do that without making too much trouble for myself, which I think I can do. Basically right now it's just using fixed width strings everywhere, and I want to look at what's it going to take to move these one at a time off of that. So I'll start with these two because there's only one of each, so they're the easiest case. And we'll go from there. So let's start by getting an error everywhere we use this string. What's going on here? Okay, there we go. Yeah, so here it's pretty easy. What we have to do is we just go project dir equals push array arena char let's see, file dir dot size plus 1. Then string can be, let's see, we're going to want a cap right there. Make string project dir 0 cap. And we copy into it there, and then we're done, right? So same basic idea as what it was before, except we can't use make fixed with string. We use a few more lines of code to build a dynamic one on the arena. Alright, what do we got here? Project dir. That's just gotta go like that now. Alright, cool. So let's switch that to that. It just got clearer. How'd the stream get clearer? What happened? Also, welcome to the chat, Jim. I see. That's weird. Push that there. Mem project dir done dir There we go. Now there's still going to be a problem because well, yeah, it's just there's a mem copy right here where we move right. So what do we want to do? Because obviously that mem copy isn't quite correct. The mem copy doesn't know that this is now pointing to a string that needs to be deep copied, right? So how are we going to do that? Well, first of all, we can't just push it on scratch because the current project needs to be like permanently correct, right? Permanently real. But I also want it to be easy to free and recreate the current project. So when we're doing this, I basically what this is going to turn into is this. So if the current project arena has not been allocated, then we're going to do... How does this happen over here, by the way? Jim, I'm switching from fixed width string arrays to dynamically sized strings on an arena-based allocation scheme, so that I don't have fixed width strings, you know, representing all the the command that, so your command is limited to 256 characters, which is plenty, but it's also too much a lot of the time, and all that nonsense is just, you never think about it ever again. It's just always correct and uses the amount of memory that is appropriate. It's basically the plan. Win-win is what I'm looking for. The only lose will be the work it takes to initially make the change, and then after that it'll never really be a problem. Alright, so I want to go to hooks real quick. No, framework. Default framework, because I think I make an arena in here. Memory partition is, we just do a make partition after memory allocate. Okay, make partition mem, I will call this project mem project size. Right, and so project mem will just be mem size. Project mem size will just be, I don't know, how much memory do I think I want? Yeah, strings are not great in the 4coder custom layer, it's true. I have a way of dealing with strings that I'm a big fan of that is very different from the Pear and Sean way of, like, I mean, I do, the string interning is particularly nice for a parser, compiler type thing, so sometimes I do that. Interesting. Sometimes I do that. I'm not sure. I'm not sure what I should do in the custom layer for 4coder yet, but I don't think I would do it that style. I kind of want to rewrite the custom layer. When I do the engine upgrade, a lot of the string stuff and arena stuff will be upgraded so that I can have a more complete story about how string memory gets handled in the custom layer. I guess I don't have much to say about it, so that's that. Um, 1 megabyte. 1 megabyte should be more than enough to store any project, I think. 32K is the longest path name. Um, which you could fit a lot of those in a megabyte. You've got a couple. Yeah, I think that's plenty of memory. If we run out on that, then someone has a humongous project and they can just come in here and bump the memory size up. But yeah, I'm fine with that. Current project arena dot position is 0, so we clear out the arena in order to fill up a new project. And now we are setting a project from another project, so we're going to do it the following way. There's no mem copies anymore. It's going to go current project dot loaded. You know what? I'm going to just have a project deep copy. We're going to go current project equals that, and then current project arena will be where we build the deep copy, and we'll build it out of this project. There we go. Static project deep copy partition arena project yeah. Okay, so our result loaded equals true will come in at the end. Yeah, I know where this is going. Okay. Project deep cop. Not sure how exactly I want to do. I guess it'll be one of these. Yeah, and then we just do like this. So result dot dir dot string. You know what we'll do? Result dot dir equals. Do I have a push string? How is push string defined? Now give me. Nope. Okay, we don't have a push string that actually works in a useful way. Let's just do it right here, I guess. Well, I'll put it in helper. Make return, make string cap, mem 0 cap, if mem does not equal 0, else return 0. Alright, there we go. So there we go. Yeah. Push string. How big does the string need to be? Well, it's based on this guy. Actually, let's do this instead. We'll keep you push string copy string result equals push string arena string size plus 1. If result.string does not equal 0, then copy into the result the string and terminate the result with a 0 or with a null, and then return the result. Now we can do push string copy dir. There we go. So I copy that. I will go ahead and mem copy the name for now because that's still using a fixed width string. Mem copy all the rest of these. Extension list. I guess we haven't actually finished upgrading the data structure at all, have we? We still have to do this extension list. Alright, we will do that. Okay. Same thing again with this for now. There we go. So that lets us do a deep copy, and right now the only thing we're deep copying is these, but we're going to get all of them in a bit. Alright, so what that is doing is now this temp will always be closed if we don't have enough memory for the project. So this will just basically say, you know, I couldn't actually successfully copy the project, returns a zeroed out version of the project instead, and that means we can just do this actually. And returns it, and then whoever called for this deep copy can then go ahead and recover however they want after that. And it has to be a separate procedure because if I return in the middle, it makes it hard to do these end temps. I'll have a bunch of end temps everywhere. So this lets me have a return just anywhere in this procedure, in this inner one, and then this outer one has one fixed location where it does a return to close, to ensure that it's closing the things that opened correctly. Alright. Let's see if that works. Excuse me for a minute. I think I hear my phone ringing, so I'm gonna be right back. So yeah, it's still able to run these just fine, which suggests to me that it worked. Let's see if I can load a different project. Great. Perfect. So, yeah, that appears to have worked. So let's try to move a few more things over. Let's get the name moved over. In this case, we can actually cheat a little bit and just say, you know what, when we're loading it this way, how about name just is a copy of dir. They're both going to be the same anyway, so we don't need a special allocation for that string in this case. When we're doing the deep copy, we do want a separate string. There we go. There we go. So let's try it again. Project. Takes it a while. And there we go. Project name still got passed through correctly. I think it worked. Extension list. So, where do we want to go with this next? I think the next thing we want to do is we have two different things we got to work on. So the extension list is technically not right the way it's set up right now. We want to switch to we want to switch to a pattern list and eliminate the extension list from the project system. At least the extension list is also used for other things, so I'll leave it as a type in the system for now, but the project system won't want it. It will want a project pattern list, and it'll actually want two of them because it's got a white list and then it's got like a base list and then a black list that trumps the white list is the plan. So how do we do it? How do we do it? I think we'll get all of the deep copying stuff done that we can first. So, let's say project command, let's say that this is the one we're gonna change first. Okay, go. Alright, so project load path array dot paths is going to need to get allocated. take one. Paths, paths. Okay, paths. Alright, so we can switch that back to being normal paths now, because we've checked all of the places where it gets used. Boom, 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 boom. Boom. There we go. Alright, so if that's part of it, but we still have the problem that when we're doing a deep copy, it's not coming out right because it's just copying the extension list directly, and that won't fly anymore. So instead what we need to do is go result.load path array dot paths equals push array onto the arena of project file load path. We'll call this path count 832 path count equals, we'll get that from the project load path array count, and alright, so there we go. We get we allocate that, and then we set the count. Now we still need to visit all of these, and for now what we're going to do is for each one of them we're going to mem copy into the result load path array paths I. We're going to copy in whatever we found at project load paths array dot paths I. Boom. And then we're going to do size of one of these guys right there. Right? So now the array is dynamic. So if that works, we should be able to load a project and run its commands, and then load another project and run its commands, and so on. Perfect. Okay. Okay. Now, that. Make that one dynamic. Alright, so we can't do that anymore. Instead, this is just going to be a push. Well, it's just going to be project dir all over again, right? No need to copy that one. Because these are immutable strings anyway. Okay, now let's take a look at deep copy, because now this is different. Project file load path dest source destination source, and so let's see, so the destination path is going to be push string copy source path, and if the dest path string is 0, we just quit. If that succeeds, then we can set recursive from the source recursive and the relative from the source relative. Alright, so that's a little concerning. So I was assuming that the fact that this was working meant that it didn't have any bugs, but I just realized I was mem copying this anyway, which meant that that test that it was working wasn't effective, because it didn't fail, even though I was doing something wrong. Which makes me think, should I just step through this in the debugger to see that it actually makes sense? I'm gonna try that. Okay, so deep copy. We're just gonna step through deep copy real quick and see what it looks like. Okay, here we go. So right here, this arena, it's ready to go, and we're saying clear it to 0 and then push the new project onto it. So there we go, there's a name, path count, so we get that, we get new paths. Move over that, so that is in the wrong spot. Okay, we're iterating those. Destination for code, recursive, relative. Alright, so now all of the memory pointers are inside of that arena, right? Okay, okay. Right, okay, let's consider this for a minute. Alright, cool. And now we can keep working on deep copy. So these ones are next. We'll get them all at once. Now we can do that because these are a lot smaller, these structs. They don't contain the full like buffer for the actual string, just a pointer and a size and capacity stuff now, much smaller. Alright, so here what we'll do is we'll use the new helper that we've made so that we can do command equals push string copy. We'll push it right onto the arena that we're filling. Right, we have one. Yeah, so we're filling this into an arena during the parse. And we're just extracting data out of a parsed abstract syntax tree really, so we're pushing on that. Okay. And the same thing will happen down here. So now we just push a copy of the string we extracted like so. Command out. Oh, we're not extracting name, but that's because this is right. So we do actually want to set their names, so we're going to do that. Name equals push string arena. Give us, I don't know, give us at least 3 bytes, 4 bytes, and yo Jim, I'll take input on anything in the chat. That's fine. Alright, get back to it. I was just responding to someone on the 4coder Discord there. So there I'm pushing that on, and then I want to append int to string, command name, J, terminate with null, command name. Alright, so there we're assigning names by just making them numerical. Nice and straightforward. Yeah, Jim, so that's one of the most annoying problems that I've tried to fix before. So I've done a couple of things. I've tried, like, when you have one of these bars here, okay, so when we have one of these bars up here, let me just make it even more obvious. There's got to be one where it's super obvious. That one's pretty good. I feel like this is the best one. So when you have this bar up here, this search bar thing, it obscures one line of text underneath it. So I've done just about everything you could imagine doing. So one thing you could do is just when you ever do this, just shift the whole thing down one line, right? That's basically one line of text. Everything else, it's just off by one now. You just shift it back, you render it there. That actually is way more trouble than you maybe initially realize. When you go to implement it, I mean, like, you're like, I'm not saying it's a criticism of people who ask for it. It's more like, in the system that 4coder uses for like coordinate systems and stuff, it means you have to always make sure that you understand in all the corner cases that the coordinate system is different now. Like, you can't ever base your coordinate system off of that corner there. It's got to be that corner there, right? And it's just not really well centralized how I control that concept. It's sort of hard-coded, spread out where the anchor point is to be that, and so it just becomes pretty buggy, and people complain about it even more once it's in. Another thing I've done is have it like have a negative amount of scroll. So like, you can imagine if you could scroll up above the file, and so what I allow it to do in one version, I allowed it to do is when you did this, it would immediately do a negative amount of scroll if it's obscuring, if it's at 0 basically. It would set your scroll target to be a negative line above 0. This just led to all kinds of bugs as well. So for now, I don't fix it. I plan to make it correct once I've removed the UI stuff, because the reason it gets so complicated is there's a bunch of UI nonsense that is in there to support UIs, but I'm phasing UIs out. Once they're completely gone, I won't have to support that stuff, and it will make it it'll allow me to write things in the easier way. So yeah, it's just a known problem that I'm not dealing with. Yeah, and so the reason that this, you can see that it's basically when I created this system with the bar up here, it was understood that this was the anchor point, so like the flow of the control when it's known that the anchor point is changed doesn't flow through the system correctly, is basically what I'm saying. So the easiest solution is to put it on the bottom instead of putting it at the top, but I don't really want to make that change either. That would actually fix everything, because putting it at the bottom, you can never, because it lets you scroll so far down. Okay, so one thing I could do is, yeah, no, the negative scrolling just leads to all kinds of problems. Yeah, the easiest solution would be to put it at the bottom, but I'm going to do it right at some point in the future. That's the plan. PLB13 says, this stream has got me curious about the text editor ecosystem as of late. It's like an endless procession of Rube Goldberg machines. My goodness. Are you talking about like what it takes to set up an editor? Like, are you saying that that's what most editors are like, or and not 4coder, or are you saying that even 4coder has this? Because I agree if you're saying that 4coder has this weird thing where it's like a series of totally arbitrary systems. Interesting. Interesting. Yeah, I don't know. In my opinion, 4coders, perhaps I don't follow other people's like developments of their editors closely enough to know, but in my opinion, 4coders not really a special case among editors in any way. It's sort of has its own weird quirks, and I mean, I happen to have picked the quirks that I like and come to like the quirks that I picked, but I'm not sure. Yeah, I know what you're talking about, Jim. So for one thing, the first line is the standard case, but it can actually get like let me see, new project, make project, new project, make project, project new, project make. Okay, I can't seem to remember how to make a project. Oh, I think it's because I've already got a project here. Make project, new project, there we go. So now if I go like this, you can see that it becomes more lines for that particular command. That was a really lame example. We got way into the weeds there. You know what? I'm just gonna let it go. Short answer is, I know what you sort of mean, but in order to have that fake line at the top of the file, I would have to either allow negative scrolling or screw up the coordinate system. Anyway, it would basically end up becoming one of the two existing problems. Alright, okay. So what's cool is now we have, like, we don't need command length anymore. Now that we're doing these things correctly, I kind of get, like, I get sort of, like, I have things that are correct automatically just for switching over to this scheme, which is why we're doing it. For instance, now we're not doing all these string lengths all the time on these things. Instead, the size just will naturally flow through the system quite easily. I see. You're talking about more about how projects make progress, like the process of getting new things done in other editors. That's got a lot to do with like the fact that they're open source, right? Is that what you're talking about? Let me see what we're doing here. Yeah, because they end up just like having to organize, like, oh, here are all these crazy nonsense things that someone in the community is trying to do, and random like forks and things happen all the time. I don't know. I don't know exactly what it is. Alright, what else can we do? Out.string, out.size, command, fkey command.string, command string, command size, alright, so that has all of everything now treats the types correctly except for fkey commands. That mem copy and the deep copy is wrong. Okay, so here what we want to do, and this hard-coded array is correct because there can only be up to 16 of these, like, ever. It's not a matter of possibly being variable width, right? So we'll just do all 16, I guess. Project command destination equals result.fkey commands, source equals project fkey commands, and then let's see, dest name equals push string copy onto the arena of the source name. Whoops, come on. Name for command, replace name for out, footer panel equals the source footer panel, and then footer panel for save dirty files. I see, yeah. Yeah, I can agree with that. I definitely liked Sublime. I wouldn't say that it didn't give me the feeling that you're talking about. Like, there's literally this. I said literally because I saw you wrote it in chat, and that wasn't the word I was looking for. Um, there's this sort of sense of an application being like overproduced, I guess, that Sublime has, that a lot of, I mean, pretty much all of them have, which is what you're talking about. 4coder is definitely underproduced. Like, you don't run an installer for it at all. Um, but like, yeah, when an application's like, it feels like it is very opinionated about certain hard-coded paths about where it wants to install things, and like you have the sense that it's messing with things behind the scenes, like extensions in the registry getting remapped, or weird temporary application paths being created for it and stuff, um, where it feels super overproduced. Sublime gave me that feeling, which I don't love when I get it. Like, I would like what you're kind of saying, where it's like an application is just some executable that you have that you run. It doesn't have this whole crazy, like, I take over your computer to work kind of thing. Which, interestingly, I would say that the other editors don't have that feeling either. Sublime is the only one that I know of that feels super, like, overproduced, if we're using that term. Interesting. Yeah. Yeah. Okay, anyway, so that does the deep copy of everything that we had before, I think. Let's try running it a little bit. Make sure things are reasonable. Yep, so that's still running the project the same as it ever has. F2 isn't working. Okay, so we have some issues. Let's investigate. Oh, I already know what they are. I already know what all the issues are. There they are. There we go. Great. Sweet. Okay, so Okay, so that does all the deep copying of the things we've already got, but I want to add the pattern list stuff still. So let's take a moment to look at that. Yeah, so let me take a look at string. I have like a wildcard match thing, so I have to get the absolutes. And basically, yes, this is just a hard-coded max in this code right here. And we'll use this. So what we'll do is we'll just bite the bullet and say we have a limit of 8 wildcards. It's plenty anyway. Yeah. And then we'll say, alright, project file pattern array, project file pattern, patterns, count. And we're going to eliminate the extension list and create a file pattern array instead. So that'll create a lot of trouble. Alright, so project get extensions is just not possible anymore. There's no such thing as that. Extension list. Right, so what we're going to want to do is we have an extension list here. We move that string into an extension list. Now what we're going to want to do is move the extension list into a pattern list, or a pattern array. So let's take a look. Where does that get defined? There it is. And extensions. Right. So the way that works is we have space where we store some strings, then we have string pointers that are just the array of those. Those are all null terminated strings. Up to 94 of them are allowed, and we have a count there. So don't ask me why 94 is the number. I couldn't possibly say. Extension list dot count plus plus I, and so that hard limit of 256 and 94 will that'll stand for now. Maybe someday we'll get off of extension lists entirely, but not for now. My goodness. That's funny. Did you not know that there were a demo PLB 13, or did you realize there was a demo and not that you could also buy the full version? I'm just curious. Because I have almost every stream I have someone have some realization that either they can get a free version or that they can buy the super version and that they want to. And so I'm sort of trying to figure out what's going on in my advertising marketing strategy that is failing so many people. Maybe instead of having editor at 4coder.net in my video, I should put that in. I see, I see. Alright, let's see. Speaking of which, well, not speaking of which, I'm reading the, there's a 4coder Discord now, in case anyone listening didn't know, and I'm checking it out while we're chatting and while I'm working, and I just remembered, so Jim is going to be a mod on this channel, which is great. I should probably be a mod too, and I don't think I actually am. The 4coder Discord? I don't know how to link you to a Discord. I'm very bad at Discord. Yeah, Delix has you. It's not like a 4coder dedicated Discord. It's a 4coder channel in the Handmade Network Discord, so I don't have to run it. Like all of it, right? The network already has the infrastructure for that. I don't really feel like getting too into it. I mean, hey, maybe someday I have so much going on with 4coder that we'll make our own 4coder server and we'll break it up into more channels, but one channel does more than enough work right now. Alright, so getting back to work here, I visited all of those, and what we're going to do is say, first of all, looking at the project, we know that the project pattern array pattern array dot count needs to get set, and then, you know, why don't we just go ahead and go for it. Count, and project pattern array dot patterns needs to get allocated. So there's our patterns, and then in here, project pattern array patterns I dot pattern absolutes. I'll just call that absolutes, I guess. Get absolutes. Alright, and how do we get absolutes? I just have to give you the string. Oh, I see. Okay. String. Make string slowly. We're going to take the extension list that we parsed, and again, take me to the definition of, don't I have like a, no, okay, that's weird. I thought I had like an Alt-Shift-D that would take me to the definitions of something under the cursor, but I can't remember actually. Is it Control-Alt-Shift-D? No. Let's go check that out real quick, because I should get used to using that command. Okay, so commands involving D. Delete range, delete line, list all locations Is it Alt-Shift-T? List all definitions of identifier. Here we go. Perfect. So instead of what I was doing, I can just go boom, boom, and if I get a little bit better, I can make that do the auto skip too. Alright, so Alright, so for font size, the method is on the command line right now. That's because I figure it changes a little too often to go into the config file. But I might also add it to the config file in case you're like not in the situation I am, where you use a different font size for every context. Like, I have the font size I use on my screen at work, font size I use here, font size I use when I'm streaming, and so on. If you're going to basically have one font size for all time, that'll probably be in the config file for the next version, which I'm going to add to my to-do list right now. Font size in config. And by the way, the flag is just -F and then the font size. So you can like add that to your startup script or type it in when you're by hand or something. For now. Okay. Okay, so extension list dot extensions I. Jim, he said he can do the zoom in on startup, but it's just he'd prefer not to have to do it. Alright, so we grab the string, we're asking for absolutes, and now there's a question of whether we put wildcards in at the beginning and end, and the answer in this case will be no. So there's no implicit first and implicit last wildcard. I forget how that actually works anyway. Implicit first. So yeah, it's just a zeroed string. I see, yeah, so it'll match, that'll match, and then it can wildcard to there. Whereas there, yeah, okay, makes sense. Alright, so that lets us fill the absolutes for that pattern, and there you go. Oops, semicolon. Alright, so we can't just memcopy the extension list, but what we can do is we can say, look, we have this project file pattern dest result dot pattern array dot patterns source project arrow, grab those patterns. Okay. You belong down here. I believe, yes. pattern count plus plus dest plus plus source. And now, how do we move from one of these to the other? Well, the dest absolutes.count equals the source absolutes.count, and then we're going to have to do a little bit of this. Absolutes count, boom, boom, and then dest absolutes dot, I believe it's just abs j equals push string copy source absolutes dot abs j. Pattern count, whoops, equals the project's pattern array dot count. The reload pattern array or result dot pattern array count will equal the pattern count, and then the patterns is what you get when you push an array onto the arena project file pattern count. Yeah, okay. And of course we need to make sure we're actually testing all of the allocations, not getting sloppy. So if that comes back 0, then quit. If that comes back 0, then quit. If that comes back 0, then quit. Alright, any other push arrays that I need to check? Not in this procedure. Any push string copies I need to check? Ah, these ones. Yep, let's just do it. Return result. Command and out. There we go. Memory safety. Nope, got it wrong. It's just A. It's just A. Okay, so we've gotten past that part, but now we still have things where we do get extensions here and there that is going to take quite a bit of work to unentangle ourselves from. So we're not going to ask for extensions. Instead what's going to happen is, well, what fails when we do that is this. So open all files in directory with extensions, or with extension, that's actually just not even going to work anymore as the thing that we call. What we actually want is open all files in directory pattern match, and that's going to look like this. So we're going to go up to there, then we're going to take the current project's let's see, project pattern file pattern array pattern array, we'll call it array equals current project dot pattern array. We'll also have one that's the blacklist, and we'll just zero that out for now. And so we pass in blacklist. I'll do whitelist blacklist. Whitelist blacklist, and then finally flags. So there we go. That's what we actually need. So to implement it, we're going to come right here and start thinking about how this stuff gets implemented. So the difference between these two is how we pull out a directory. In this case, we get a directory from a string we pass in, and in this case we get the directory from the hot directory in the application core. BLB13, what is it you like? Are you talking about the new super that you, are you checking out the new custom layer stuff that you found access to? Alright, so this inner part here says I don't care where it comes from, you're going to give me that space and this extensions array. So what we're going to do is we're going to say, well, how many places does this get used? We define it there, we call ourselves right there, and then it gets used. Okay, so that's manageable. We're going to obliterate this one, and there we go, make a new one right here. Open all files in directory pattern match inner. And the pattern match part, we put in project file pattern whitelist blacklist flags, and then it's good. Hey, Delix, since you're in the chat, did you, you were the one who was talking about implementing, auto indent stuff. Did that ever happen? Like the tabbing thing? Here it is. I have to take a quick break. I was having a salad, and I bit a tomato. Like, I bit into it. I didn't have it fully in my mouth. And it sprayed tomato juice out, and I just noticed there's a little bit of it still stuck on this key on the keyboard. So give me a minute. The neighboring key's got a little bit of gunk on it too. I don't want to let that sit there and get gross. Okay. I think that was the only one I missed, or that was the only little bit of goop I missed when it happened. I cleaned up most of the keyboard right away, and I guess I just missed that a little bit, but I don't see any more. I mean, I see a crumb under there too, possibly from a crouton, so let me get that out real quick too. Here we go. Alright. Stop eating so close to the keyboard is the lesson. Alright, so, let's get this thing working. So, what does it do right now? We get a file list, and then we start iterating. We say, give me the info. If this is a folder and we're being recursive, and it does not start with a dot, then we're going to make sure that the name doesn't, actually we're taking this out, I think. Because starting with a dot is something we could easily check with a wildcard now, like with a blacklist thing. So, which means the blacklist isn't just empty, it'll actually have, yeah, both. Okay, I see where we're going with this. Okay. So, if we see a folder and we're opening recursively, go ahead and say, push that name onto here, but before we do that, we have to check if find in pattern or match in pattern array. We're going to take this, we're going to first make this into a string. And then we're going to say if we can find it in the whitelist. I guess we'll do folders even if they don't show up in the whitelist, right? If we're being recursive, and yeah, so you don't have to do anything to match which subfolders you want. If you're being recursive, you're getting all subfolders, unless that subfolder matches something in the blacklist. So that way you can at least put in a folder name and say don't go down this path, right? So if match in pattern array, that string in blacklist. So if we don't match anything in the blacklist, then go ahead and do this. In directory pattern match inner app space whitelist blacklist flags. Alright, so that's what happens if we see a folder. What if the thing we're looking at is a file? Ooh, that's kind of poorly structured, isn't it? We're going to say if it's a folder, then what if we just did that? So if it's a folder and this flag is not set, then continue. If it does match something in there, then continue. Otherwise, finally, you can actually recurse into it. On the other hand, and let's also do that. Alright, and then here it's doing the loop over the extensions. And just testing them directly. We are now going to say no, nothing like this. we'll say if we do not match something in the whitelist, then we'll continue. Then, if we've gotten that far, if we do match something in the blacklist, so you see the blacklist overrides the whitelist, not the other way around, right? You could imagine it being like, well, I guess if you have them both, there's no other way that it would make sense. Because if the blacklist is subtractive, and the whitelist is additive, then how would it ever... You would have to have... The only time a blacklist... Yeah. You could have... Okay, so what you could imagine is that we're saying take all files and then blacklist out the ones we don't want, and then whitelist to sub-add in the things that got taken out that we actually wanted added in. But, it certainly just makes sense in our situation to do it that way. PLB13 asks, is the 4coder wiki blank by design, or is it okay to contribute to it? So, the plan, I just haven't really had time for this yet, but it's part of the retirement of 4OX plan, is to start doing the wiki. It's just going to be later on in the plan. It's blank right now because basically the things I want on the wiki will be in probably two categories. For one of them, I have to do some infrastructure or internal infrastructure building on the 4coder like content management stuff for tutorials and documentation. But the other thing I want on the wiki is like people's examples of cool customizations they've written that they wanted to share with everyone else. I want to kind of turn it into like here's how to get this thing, and here's the code that does it, and here's, you know, whatever thing I came up with, and so on. And that way there's sort of, for people who are learning how to use the custom layer, a series of examples of the code, and for people who are trying to get the most out of the editor, a place where they can go and find already solved things and like ideas on how to get the most out of your editing, right? The only reason that I actually have a few people who have said that they're okay with putting up their code, some like with different levels of interest in like writing articles about how it works and stuff. I just haven't actually let anyone do it yet because I want to take a little bit of time to just organize and set that thing up. But if you do post on there, I'm not sure. Yeah, I'd rather that you not post yet. I just want to take some time to figure out the exact plan before I let anything build up over there. So for now, I guess it's blank by design, is my answer. Okay, so if we've gotten this far, we've passed all the tests, and we know we're opening the file, so there we go. Now we just need to answer one last question, which is how do we match in pattern array? Now I just need to do the, let's see, wildcard match C. Interesting, interesting. That's trouble. So wildcard match S doesn't actually work. I wonder why that is. Why didn't I write wildcard match S as the main one? It's kind of concerning. So I guess what I have to do is, if this is not null terminated, I need to null terminate it, and if I can't null terminate it, I need to make a null terminated copy of it. You know, I think I'm just making life harder on me by doing it this way, because if I do it that way, I have to get an alternated string, which is the API that I'm going to have an easier time doing. So we're actually going to go this way. And you can hang out right there. You can hang out right there. And the two of you can go like that. So now, now I can just use the one that actually works. Okay. And once again, we learned that I desperately need to rewrite the string library to be like 2018 level Allen skill and not like 2014 level Allen skill. Pattern absolutes. Here is the string. I don't even, why is the string called X? Who even knows? Case sensitive. It's a good question. What do you guys think? Should the pattern matching be case sensitive or not for files? I feel like it shouldn't be. Right? I don't know, it's weird, because on Windows you would expect it to be case insensitive, and on Linux you would expect it to be case sensitive. I guess if I make it case insensitive, it'll be better. Yeah. For this to be fully feature complete on Linux, it would need to be case sensitive. That just means the people on Windows have to do more work than they might expect to get it to do what they want. So that's the correct way to do it. Yep. Alright, so, hold on, let me do that again. Oh, whoops, I said false. Case, I thought it was case insensitive. Match C true. Case sensitive. Alright, now. Open all files in directory with extension. We'll get that working again. But before we do, we want to do one more thing here. We want to make this version, the wrapper version of this, which is going to take the same parameters this used to take, except that instead of an extension array, it takes the whitelist and blacklist. Right? And it's going to do everything that this used to do. It's exactly the same concept, except again, pattern match inner instead of that other one, and whitelist blacklist. So now these guys are different than they used to be. Because what we want is, let's go over here, we want to basically be able to at will convert an extension list into the more we have. So this is just a useful concept that I feel like I've tried to explain to people all the time, and I never feel like I'm fully expressing my concept. So we have a data format, the file extensions, or the extensions array. I will abbreviate it to ext array for now. So we have a data format, and we know that this works, right? It works. And by works, what I mean is there is code that uses it and relies on it already, and that code counts on this thing to work correctly, and we've set it up to work correctly, so that's why we have everything. The whole project is nice because the places where it's expected that this works are given the features that they're expecting, and the implementation does in fact provide them. And now what we're saying is we have this new format, right? The patterns array, and the thing is we've actually gone ahead and said, you know what, this is gone. This doesn't, we don't have that implementation anymore. We have some new implementation, and we're going to make it work, right? We're going to make it work eventually, but everyone else is counting on this thing to do its thing. Well, it turns out that this thing has all the features this thing used to have, so what we can do is reroute this into here. That's what we're doing right now. We're making it so that everyone who used to rely on extensions array can now still rely on it, because patterns contains all of those features and more. Okay, so we have one of these already, and it's all just going to be a data conversion thing. We're just reducing. I didn't even finish what I was trying to say with that picture. This is all about what reductions are about. We used to have an A working, now we have a B working, and it turns out we can implement A's in terms of B's, and so we can save ourselves the maintenance difficulty of maintaining both of them by saying, instead of maintaining an A anymore, we will just convert A's into B's with equivalent like functionality, and then we will use the code paths that implement the B. So right here, right here we parse out an extension list, and then we are basically pushing on to an arena. Yeah, this is where we push on to an arena a pattern array that matches that extension list. So we're going to come up here to the top, and we're going to introduce a pattern array, or project file pattern array. Get file pattern array from extension array, and we need an arena and an extension list. I guess we called those lists, not arrays. My bad. And we're building an array. We'll return that. And right here we have all the code that implements this already. So all we have to do is project pattern array equals get file pattern. We'll just call it get pattern array from extension list. Here's the relevant arena, and here's the extension list. Okay. And how do we do that? Well, That part's the same. This part is different. We're just filling the array now, iterating that, get absolutes, and here we're just using the array again. There we go. So now, list. Now everywhere where we used to take in an extension array and get this feature, we can still get the same feature. We're just going to have to do a conversion real quick. So project file pattern array whitelist equals get pattern array from extension list. We already have a Scratch arena sitting around, and then we just pass in the extension array. Oh, that's a C-string array, not an extension list. Interesting. Where did the C-string array come from? Alt-Shift-T, there we go. Okay. Yeah, perfect. We can make this work still. Same exact concept all over again. So we have some parts of our code that want to build these from extension lists and other parts of our code that want to build these from C-string arrays. Turns out the C-string array, let me show you guys this. Whoops, come on now. Did I accidentally close some of my code? Config.h, I did. Turns out the C-string array is just these two members of the extension list, right? Those two guys are these two things. So, what I mean by that is we can now do a reduction of our conversion here so that we have one that takes an extension list and one that takes a C-string array. We'll call that list as well. And we have a list, we have a count on that list and extensions, or what was it, strings I think? Config.h. Yeah, strings and count, okay. So we have strings. We visit each string, we grab it, and then we make the absolutes, and then we're done. In order to do this with an extension list, we will just convert an extension list into a C-string array. And then we will run the other one. Arena list. There we go. So there we go. These are two different ways of turning some kind of string array type thing into a project file pattern array. We have one that's relying on this, and we have another one here that wants to rely on one like this. And so to do that, we're going to take get from, and this wants to be from C-string array. C-string array. Alright, so this is going to take from the C-string array. We'll call this just array to make it fit on a line. So we get a pattern from the C-string array. Perfect, and that becomes our whitelist. Now we also want a blacklist. Where are we going to get the blacklist? Should it just be empty? Answer, no, it can't just be empty, because I made a mental note earlier that we had a built-in rule that said ignore files that start with a dot. Remember this? Files that start with a dot did not get loaded by default. So all the code paths that are relying on this are relying on that behavior. That they don't load things that start with dots. So, what is that? That's a blacklist. We just need pattern array from C-string array, scratch black array. How are we going to fill a black array? Black array is just going to have a count of 1, and strings is going to be a pointer to something will sit right here called dot string. Dot string will just be a pointer that's sitting here looking like that, right? So now we have a blacklist that is a dot and a star, and we use that to make this. That's that. We make an array of one element called our black array, and then by doing that we take the address of this variable here, right? And then we pass that to this procedure again to get our blacklist, and then we can pass all of that down here. But here's the thing, we're going to want to do this more often than this. We're going to want to do this a lot. So what we're going to do is we're going to make a project file pattern get I'll do it right here. It's a little bit more locally appropriate. Get dot string blacklist. And that doesn't need any parameters at all. It's going to have a local dot string equals that. And then we're going to say all of this stuff like that. And then we're going to say there. We do need an arena. And then we can return the blacklist. Right? In fact, there we go. So now we could just do get dot stir blacklist. There we go. And finally, we can apply the same concept up one step right here. We can get the whitelist again. Oh wait, no, this is the one for a pattern. It's down one, down one. So down here we also have an extension array coming in, and using the same concept again, we can get a whitelist and a blacklist. Aha, it's not too long. Alright. Let's see if that builds. Now, why are you... Oh, strings. And these are doing with extension. We want to do pattern match. Now, it's unclear why I would want to have this code twice. So that won't even go to the inner one. That's going to go to the outer app, scratch, dir, whitelist, blacklist flags. Then this one will do that work, because why should I have two spots where I implement that code? And then this one's different. It's getting the space, so it does need to go to the inner one. And that's a pattern match. And then it goes to inner because it already got the space. The reason it gets the space in this case, rather than and not like, you know, here, The reason it doesn't get it here is because this code can do it, but this code can't pass through here because it can't get its directory as this way. It wants to allocate that space and then fill it with this call. So the way it's initializing that space has to be different. This part is the same as this. Then we call straight into the inner one because we've already done this work in a slightly different way. Okay, so there we go. Yep. Alright, let's see. Let me see if I can set up an easy way for me to whisper. It's not. Is there a way to whisper without having to pop up in those little chat windows on the Twitch chat? Yeah, Alt-Shift-T does the jump to type def. I think that is in... I think that's in the default bindings. It should work. Right? Yeah. So the default bindings have Alt-Shift-T does list all locations of type definition of identifier. When it says of identifier, it means of identifier under cursor. The number of modifiers that this actually needs to fully describe itself is ridiculous. List all locations is just the basic name of the thing. Of type definition is a special kind of list all locations that is doing type definitions. And this is telling us where we're getting the string to do the of type definitions. It's just crazy. A blank window with the title search. Well, it might not be finding it because of the format that your types come in. I mean, so the way this works is not great. Let me show you. Search list all locations of type definition. List type definition parameters. Okay, so you can see the way it works. You specify the string you're looking for, and it looks for the following patterns: struct space that string brace, struct space that string new line brace, union space string brace, and so on. So if you're doing, for instance, or something like that, it won't find it, or even that, or whatever. Excuse me. So yeah, this isn't like a real feature that is actually implemented well or anything like that. What I should probably do is just stop with these and just say that we're looking for struct foo. Right? And the only downside to that is you'll find like these. And you'll find these. But, well, no, because for like C code you could find like a bunch of these, right? It would not be surprising at all to see this all over the place in C code. So, whoops, shit, I actually don't know. It's a bit tricky. I'd have to parse for reals. Like as we discussed before, parsing for reals is tricky. Yeah, it doesn't have. If it's in a macro, it definitely won't find it. I mean, you could write your own version that's like specialized to the way you define types, which is basically what that is for me. That's how I define types plus the other most common way to define a type. And it doesn't even catch all the types in my system because I have a few that are like in weird situations. So like all of these, for instance, don't get found because they're behind macros for silly reasons, actually. For not very good reasons. My meta system is so lame. I can't remember why I turned this feature off, but I liked it. I wish I hadn't. But oh well. Maybe it had a bug or something that I'm not recalling. Yeah, okay. Let's get back to it. So, project commands. Does everything build yet? Project get extensions. Okay, we still have a few places where we're using this. So close all files with extension is also bunk. It's also goofy and incorrect now. So what we actually want is let's just get default extensions, get code extensions. There it is, global config code extensions. Alright, again, we're just going to say all of these commands are going to go back to their old behavior of not actually going through the project system for now. Maybe this will be annoying to people, I don't know, but this is how it used to work a long time ago. And I don't know if people who are using projects use open all code or open all code recursive or close all code all that much, actually. Alright, we gotta finish this. I never finished it. So, if we find a match here, first time we find a match, we're good, and then we return that. Okay, so pattern array, yeah, so deep copy we already did, right? It does the pattern copying fully. Okay, so let's do, let's run this. Ooh, PLB13 says, yeah, I do open all recursive every time. I'm amazed it never chokes, honestly. You do open all recursive. Are you not using the project system? Or are you... Basically what I've changed just now is, in the old days, all you could do to run a project was basically you would load the project and that had commands in it, and then you would separately open all code. And you would have your config file determine what counted as code. Then the idea came that the project, when you load the project file, that should open all files immediately on its own without you having to do it. But then once it's doing that, you kind of have this expectation that that's a different operation, slightly different type of operation, and that you want to have different projects have different extensions. And so then the idea becomes, alright, once you've loaded a project, that changes for whenever the config basically sets, here are the default extensions that we care about. As soon as a project is loaded, those get ignored and the project's extensions are now used. But now projects don't have extensions, and so if I was going to do open all code, it would be like, do we have a project loaded? Yes, no. If so, use its patterns, otherwise use the default extensions, right? And so I could do that, but I'm not jumping on it right now because I don't know if anyone actually cares if open all code recursive uses the same patterns as their project, or if it'll be fine to just do the config way. So you'll have to give me some feedback on that. If you think it's important that it matches with the project after the project has been loaded, let me know and I'll make it behave differently. Yeah, so once you, in the new project system will be way, way better, but like for instance, here's the current project system. I'll just load the file real quick. Right? And you can see it has it will always load files. If you set it to open recursively, it will load everything at the same level as it. So it'll open up all this because those are at the same level as it. And since it's got the recursive flag set to true, it'll also recurse into these folders and open everything there. So if you have a project where all the code can be in one folder, then, or like if all the code you want to load is under one folder and none of the code in there is code you don't want to load, then you can just put a project file in there, and when you load it, it'll load all the code in there. The new project system we're building right now will have more flexibility than this so that you can actually specify an array of directories and have all of them happen at once. Right? That way you don't even have to visit multiple ones and open them all recursively, which is what I have to do right now at work. I load the project I care about, and then I have a couple other folders that I can't really group them together any closer, and I can't put the project file above all of them, so I have to load one project and then open other code in other places. So there's not a great example of how to do the project stuff. The closest thing to a tutorial of the current build's project system is under 4coder.net tutorials, file system, managing a project file. So you can see here kind of these three videos show you the evolution of the original project file, as each one of them was released as sort of helping people find more efficient ways to do these things. So like this one was very much like, if it's your first time with 4coder, here's how you find the files you're looking for. This one was like, alright, I hear that you're having trouble figuring out how to organize yourself with lots of files. Here's how to do it. And then this one was, you know, I've been looking at it and I had decided to add a project 4coder file, and here's how it works. And this is the project system that has been in place since then. Until now, this hasn't really changed. I think the open all recursive is the only thing I've added. The only small thing I added was this open recursively equals true option. Although, if I look at it, it looks like it does have another variable in there that I don't remember. Let me go away. Let me do this. Features available in 4coder version 4.0.14. These are built right into the custom layer, so anyone who has a customization code can go in and tweak how this works themselves, or try to add new features. Alright, so PLB13 already watched the video. But I want to see something. I'm just curious about something here.
That file contains go to HPP when opening up to be open. So I've included those extensions and so on. Project folder.
Yeah. So a few things have changed. So I'm just trying to see what else. So that's comments there. Yeah. So open recursive is new. The other thing is there's a fourth boolean that determines whether or not to save all dirty buffers. So if you set the fourth one to true, if it's not set, I think it defaults to false. And then if that's true, whenever you run that command, it first saves all dirty buffers, then runs the command, which is really nice when it's like a build command that you want the code to save before building. Yeah. There'll have to be, this is all obsolete now, this is all version 0 of the project system. And so there'll have to be a new tutorial video up here for the new stuff. Although all of this is getting trashed and we're starting from scratch with new tutorials in not too long. So, yeah. Because they're not, the newest stuff will have features like pulling out these variables. Plus, I mean, it's just a whole new game. So anyways, let's test this thing. I load a project. Did it get, it didn't load any files at all. Okay. So let's see, open all code. Yeah, so it just means that our matching isn't working. Let's take a look at that. Not close all files extension. I want this one. Okay. So suppose I do all open all code. It eventually comes down to here. So what's my whitelist look like? Alright, we have 10 patterns. Let's take a look at that. Each of those 10 patterns is going to be just a oneer with a CPP. That's not right at all. Right, so our conversion to yes, okay. Our conversion to the absolutes here is a little bit wrong. What we actually need is temp begin temp memory on the arena, end temp memory. We need to there's the base string, and we need to add in okay. Push a string onto the arena, which is the base string dot size plus 3. And then we're going to append onto that string first a star dot, and then the base string, and then finally we will terminate it with null. So that plus 3 is 1 for this and this, and 1 for the null. Then we should get better behavior, because now we're actually putting in the extensions arrays. Just give us the actual name of the extension. We're now doing patterns, which means we have to do the data conversion to turn an extension into a pattern that matches that extension. Yeah, so Jim's agreeing with me that it seems like more and more of the project system is superseding the old, like, open all code recursive stuff that is sort of the, like, I don't know what you would say, like a primordial version of the project system, basically. the stuff that existed to make file management easy before we had projects, which has been phased out more and more in 4coder since then. Yeah, I used to start every day by going open all code recursive. Like every day I type that in, and now for the last, I don't know, 6 months it's never been anything other than load project. Okay, so we're still not getting anything. Let's take a look. Alt X, open all code. Alright, again, what does my whitelist look like? Now they all have two absolutes, an empty string probably. Yep, one empty string, and then, well that's not good. Oh. Right. I guess this probably can't be temp, because this probably is not storing, it's not making a copy. It's storing pointers to the originals, so we have to keep those originals around. Actually. Whoops, I don't need that. I need that. Hey, it's taken a while this time. That could be a good sign that it's working, although obviously the fact that it takes a while is not a good sign. Hey! Hey, hey, hey! Yep. Yeah, so up until recently I've always been able to get away with having my project file, like the project file, be just the only place where all the files get loaded from. But yeah, my work at RAD has kind of got me to the point where I need this upgrade, and I know a lot of other people's project flow don't work anything the way my weird ass, like when I'm working on a project by myself and I have literally no organization constraints at all, I can make it work, but I've discovered that there's just a lot of good reasons why you want to be able to specify a couple of paths for your code. So that's where we're moving. But I want to double check that we got all the code. So it did recurse. That looks good. Did it get text files? We can find out here. Yeah, got the text files. It did not load those, which is correct. It doesn't match those patterns. It didn't load anything in here, I assume. Okay, good. And I don't think it even iterated that, because it would have taken a much longer time if it had iterated it. So I think everything works. I think we've got the thing doing it. Let's try yeah, okay. So, I can turn that off now. Yeah, so we have a pattern array. We are setting it now in the project 0 parser, which is what this one is right here. It's not even the project 0 parser, it's like just the project 0 interpreter. The parser actually works the same way. It's how we interpret the parsed result afterwards. So that's how we set the
load path array right there. Where do we set up the patterns? We set that up from the extension list. We also want to just set that, okay, so whenever we do this, we're also just going to do project blacklist pattern array equals get string dot string. Dot string is a weird name for it. It should be more like get star dot blacklist. Get trivial get standard blacklist. There we go. Push that onto the arena. Alright, so our basic projects come with that now, and down here we want to get that from right there, blacklist pattern array. Perfect. Alright, I think we've now fully got all of the features that we want in the new project system implemented, and we have them all working in dynamic arrays, so we can go back to the stream to-do list and mark that off there. Alright, so this has been a pretty long stream. I'm not really ready to take a break. I want to get more done, but I do need to cycle the streams at least so that the videos don't get too long. So we'll take a 5-minute breather. I will turn off the stream and then start up a casual stream for a few minutes. We'll screw around and then we'll get back to work. So I'll see you in a sec.